Hey everyone, it's Chris and Sheree Geo of truthfrequencyradio.com. Wanted to share with you some of our recent experiences. We did another Ayahuasca ceremony, and I've started to push the boundaries of myself and the boundaries of the whole outer realm, because the Ayahuasca guide that we have out has a very powerful dose in it, and I've started to double that dose to try to push myself into the outer reaches of hyperspace or of the experience. And I just want to reassure everybody that there's nothing to fear when it comes to any of this, whether you do ayahuasca with a smaller dose or with these larger doses, the way that I've been experimenting with. The only thing that there is to fear is letting go of your ego. Well, let me just rephrase that. The only thing that provokes fear is letting go of your ego, because your ego is about to die when it's going into these experiences, and it doesn't want to die. And so it's going to give you every reason under the sun why not to go into the experience. For instance, there's been a lot of nights where Sheree and I just choose Netflix and chill, and we'll make a pizza and watch a movie instead. Go, well, I don't know, I'm too tired, I've worked too hard. I mean, I work pretty hard on my day job,
Yeah,
on
he
Truth
does.
Frequency, on everything. And so I'm exhausted a lot of the time at night, and I don't really get the chance to sit down very much and relax. But on those nights, I'll talk myself out of doing the experience and say, you know what, I really need rest, or I really need sleep, or
Hmm.
I just want to lay on the couch and just veg out and let my mind rest. But there's never been an instance where I've gone into one of these ceremonies and come back out and thought to myself, darn it, I shouldn't have done that. It's always been a positive experience. So if you haven't seen our other videos on similar subjects, one of the main questions that we take into these experiences is, who are we? Where do we come from? Why are we here? Because these are ultimately, in my opinion, the questions that people have been asking since the beginning of time, and everything else is kind of irrelevant once you start to unlock these particular answers. And in my experience yesterday, it was about letting go of the ego once again, because the further I get from ceremony, the more the ego starts to take over, because I get caught in the physical realm. And that's another reason why I keep putting off doing another ceremony, because the ego wants to hold on to everything. So letting go of the ego, and I had to deal with more like dramas and problems and traumas from childhood, and things that I'm worried about in life, in my career, where am I
Hmm.
heading as a radio show host, in my day job, Truth Frequency, all these things. I was dealing with all of these while at the same time unlocking the mysteries of the cosmos and the universe and the whole idea of consciousness. It was like it gave me this ball that was multidimensional and handed it to me, where everything was overlapping on top of each other. And so one thing seemed really relevant, like stuff that happened during childhood, but then now those things aren't really relevant anymore. The things that I'm worried about now, my career, my future, this and that, aren't really relevant in the grand scheme of understanding how consciousness actually works, and understanding how this matrix is nothing more than an illusion. So it's layer upon layer upon layer of illusion that is breaking. And there was a point where I was just laughing uncontrollably, because as I kept on going to the next level and next level, I realized how silly I was being for being worried about all of this physical stuff, and even being worried about things like death, or being worried about, anything that's outside of this reality, or the consciousness, the consciousness stream, because at the very top of it, like, it's really all just an illusion. I wish I could put that into better words, but I don't want to talk too
Well,
long.
and it wasn't even like the signature mischievous laugh that everyone is so used to with Chris. This was more like a baby's belly laugh, and it was just, and I'm like, I've never heard him laugh like that. And so I kept asking him, what is she showing you? And he said, everything. And I was like, oh, okay, I've been there. I know what you're talking about. I've been there. I've been there. So, I knew that what he was seeing was basically a kaleidoscope of time and experience.
It really was. And in order to get there, I had to first of all let the ego go. And second of all, put fear to the side to be able to experience these extremely large doses. I mean, these are like, we've way surpassed any levels that Terrence McKenna has broken into or anything like that, because we're really taking this to the next level.
Right.
And as I was passing through this veil of hyperspace, I seemed to always be greeted by a lot of gray extraterrestrials. In this particular case, they looked a little bit different. It was almost as if seeing their profile, because I was only able to see like one eye of them. And they were just all around me. And I was watching them, and usually I would expel them or tell them to go away or something like that. But I said, you know what? I'm going to surrender my ego for the first time. Because me, when I'm in that realm, I'm the light warrior. I've got my light sword. I'm, in command and in control of the experience rather than being a passenger. And I think that comes through experience with the plant, that you can actually start navigating these realms as opposed to being swept away. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put my ego to the side. You guys want to talk? Let's sit down. Let's talk. I've never talked to you guys before. I've never opened myself up to communicate with you. Why are you always here? And what do you have to tell me? They went away on their own. They didn't have anything to say at all.
No dialogue.
No. But I think it was just that symbolic sign of letting the ego go that allowed me to get to really, like, some really outer realms. Now, I saw from the very beginning of my existence, and I was in a field, and I was like a little baby angel, and I was standing with my mother, Isis, and Isis looked like a mixture of Sheree and a mixture of my mother here in the physical, in this life. And Isis is the perfect wife and the perfect mother. And through my mother, I was able to see the perfection of the motherly divine feminine. And through Sheree, I'm now seeing the perfection of the wife divine feminine. So there's that balance, the Isis balance that has always been there in my life to guide the divine masculine, which is I am. And in every single life that Sheree and I have lived here, we've always played the same roles. I've always been the male. She's always been the female. We've always been twin flames. Where in soul families and with soul mates, sometimes you play opposite roles. Sometimes you're the enemies of each other. Sometimes you're brother and sister. Sometimes you're husband and wife. Sometimes you're father and daughter or mother and son. So you all play out these different roles for each other. But in our particular case, we've always been the twin flames. And as I was walking through this field with my mother, Isis, she was holding my hand, and she looked down at me and said, I have to send you somewhere, but you're going to be safe, and you have to go through this experience. And that was the beginning of me going from the other realm into the physical world. And this was 100,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago. Who knows how many lifetimes I've actually been here. But Sheree has always been with me since the very beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we've lived thousands of lifetimes together. I mean, really, thousands. And it's amazing because, should I get into the twin flame relationships?
Yeah.
Okay. Or should I
go.
share my experience first?
Share your experience.
Okay. Well, first of all, my experience was really interesting. I asked once again for probably the umpteenth time this year, is the earth round or flat? Because I want to know, just for my personal gain, because we've had this conversation millions of times over the past year, and
The evidence makes me believe that it's flat. And I think Sheree has a little bit of a difficult time with that. And she's like, "Oh my God, my husband's a flat earther." But I'm not really a flat earther. The evidence is leading me in that direction, and I'm more than open to evidence to the contrary, but I just can't seem to find it. So I'm still looking, though. I'm keeping my mind open.
Well, I asked her, is the earth round or flat? And she showed me the earth as a round ball. And then she put it in a pea pod, along with like peas on either side of it, like as if to say, okay, you're just one of many. There are many of your kind of world. And then she wrapped it up in like a green silk and said, I just wanted to protect it. And that brought to mind the idea that maybe we used to be on a round earth, but something happened to that earth, and now we are no longer on a round earth, but rather we are an enclosed flat surface, of an enclosed flat plane, that we are living out our lives thinking that we're on a ball. And it's only whenever we become consciously aware of the fact that we aren't on a ball that the illusion will shatter and we'll see what we're actually on.
That seems to be a recurring theme in my experiences as well. The idea that our original home planet was destroyed and we've been put somewhere else for a purpose, either quarantined because we're such a violent species, maybe we blew up our own planet. But that's what I speculated at first, but it's becoming more apparent to me based on these visions and understandings that there's something very special about the human spirit and something that must be preserved at all costs. Mm-hmm. And so we've been placed into this artificial construct, just like a wildlife preserve. So to keep the human spirit alive and keep the human spirit going. But one of the goals of the human spirit, or one of the reasons the human spirit exists, one of the most interesting things about the human experience, the human spirit, let me put it like that. In my eyes, looking from these extraterrestrial perspectives or this otherworldly perspective looking down upon us, is that the human spirit is capable of anything and everything. And so you put a human spirit into a construct like this. Tell them that they're on a globe. Tell them that all this is happening around them, that they're floating around in space, etc., etc. Create one boundary after another, after another, after another, through religious programming, through indoctrination, through false history, through a false government, through a false sense of control, police states, literally everything.
Right.
And the experiment is to see how under what circumstances can you keep the human spirit trapped, and how long will it take the human spirit to break free of that? Mm-hmm. The movie, The Truman Show, The True Man Show, there's a scene where Christoph, who was the creator, the Christ figure from the moon, he was watching everything from the moon, was speaking with somebody else, and the other person was telling him, you can't keep him locked up like this, it's not right, etc., etc. And Christoph replied, well, if he really wanted to escape, he can. There's no way we can actually keep him in this construct against his will. He chooses to stay here. He chooses out of fear of the unknown, out of fear of going and to the other ends of the borders. Mm-hmm. So he's comfortable here. And so that's what's going on here with the human spirit, is that we have this kind of Stockholm syndrome where we're in love with our prison, and we want to protect that prison at all costs. And that even comes to the point of ridiculing anybody that calls this out for the prison that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just recently we had 2 stories of these balls that they were saying they look like the torture devices in Star Wars. They're like black balls that have fallen from the sky. And people are asking themselves, what are these? Where did they come from? It's the lights falling. It's the construct, the matrix. There's so many glitches in the matrix right now because we're waking up, and our consciousness and conscious state and vibration is in direct correlation with the construct itself. So when we start to resonate at a higher frequency or vibrate at a higher frequency, we notice that all these systems that have been put here to enslave us start to come down, even to the point of physically falling down from the sky. We're seeing the political system crumble. I mean, how many people are not going out and voting now because they realize that it's just a trap and it's a waste of time and there's other ways to change things. The big campaign right now is vote for nobody, vote for nobody. And I'm one of those, voting for nobody, because the system doesn't work. It's broken. But it's those realizations. How many people are pushing off any kind of religion, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, literally everything. And that's why there's such a push from the mainstream media to paint religious extremism on both sides as such a big problem, I think, is because that system is starting to crumble on its own. More and more people are not following those systems anymore. So they want to put the illusion out there that there's a much bigger problem and a bigger concern about, and that people are so, tied to these ideologies when really it's just a small fraction of the population at this point. I mean, if you can paint the picture that the entire world are a bunch of sleeping sheep, well, then you feel alone in your awakeness, and you look around and you're like, oh man, all these people are sheep. But you don't get out there and actually realize how many people are actually awake. So we start to wake up and start to research things like flat earth, for instance. And maybe it was a globe at one point in time. Maybe we were put here, and we remember a globe, and because in genetic memory. And I mean, maybe it even happened during our lifetime. Like maybe 2012 was really a doomsday scenario, and we were all put to sleep, and we woke up in an exact copy of our Earth before everything was destroyed. I don't know, but something has changed. We have the Mandela effect, where little details are different. Is it time travel? Is it that they're messing with the timeline? Or is it that we were literally placed somewhere else and they just didn't quite get it right? Like there's a movie, Dark City, and that's what they do. Every night in the movie, they change everything. And like, I'm a doctor one day, then I wake up and I'm a lawyer, a taxi driver, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, this is how that Dark City movie was working. So, all these stories that we hear, The Matrix, Dark City, The Truman Show, where do these stories come from? I think that they're the genetic memory and the spiritual human spirit, which are kind of echoing to us and saying, hey, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. Wake up, wake up. And it's coming out in our creative and artistic expression because we remember the truth. I hope I didn't go too far off point there, but
no, not at all. Not at all. Well, and I guess the next route we want to go down is to twin flames.
No, I want to hear more about the...
Well, that was, my experience had a lot of personal stuff attached to it that I don't really want to get into, but the point being that it is not really what we do in this life that matters as much as the energy with which we do it. If you're doing something like surgery on somebody, and it's an emergency situation, you have no way of giving them any anesthetic, is it evil to cut them open in the field and to help them survive, or to
no,
to hurt them in that regard?
Euthanasia as well. I watched my mother dehydrate to death and starve to death because we don't have euthanasia laws. And she was already brain dead. She was gone. There was nothing anybody could do. All they needed to do was just inject a little more morphine than they did and just end it. But instead, I had to watch her go through 4 or 5 days in a coma, brain dead,
Yep.
on life support. And after the life support was pulled to the natural death. Would it have been bad to kill her in the manner that, you see? So I think that just goes to show what you're saying is it's the energy behind it.
Yeah, I saw, and I know this sounds disgusting, and to a lot of you, it's going to sound like I've backtracked in some way spiritually, but I saw a witch like cutting open and sacrificing a dove. And she had this look in her eyes that said, I'm sorry to have to do this. I'm so sorry. And then I saw a Catholic inquisitor torturing somebody, and just the look on his face of just sheer ecstasy and glee from hurting this person. And I thought, and then she asked me, which one is more evil? And I thought, oh, okay, that's the point, is evil is the energy that you put out to somebody else, especially when you're hurting them physically. But a lot of it has to do with the energy. If you're doing something that requires you to put out bad energy, it's going to take its toll on you in a big, big way. If you act out of love and sympathy and compassion for all living things, your life will be amazing. That's just the bottom line. You stay in a good frequency and things will go amazing for you.
It's all about perception. And, I also had a personal vision that, I don't know, how do I phrase it? So, I've gone through this transformation. And I used to have the bear spirit, and now I have the eagle spirit. And that's why I have the eagle. Oh, can't see it. Oh, there he goes.
There you
Okay.
go.
So, with the eagle, and through this transformation came wings on my back. Like I was given wings. And the wing symbolism seems to be replete in many different people that are working with the plant as extensively as I am. The light sword comes first, and then the wings, and you become almost angelic to a point. But the wings, when I sprouted them in previous experiences, were smaller and less significant. But this time I saw the wings on me, and the connection pieces were like that thick, and I could see the fleshiness of it. I could feel it. And they were like wings made of steel. And Isis was telling me, you can use your wings to protect yourself. You can use your wings to fly. You can use your wings to protect yourself, etc. And then I was looking at a mirror image of myself. But from looking down at myself, I was like angelic looking. But looking at the mirror image of myself, I was like a demon. I had bat wings in the reflection. I was red. I had horns. I was, smoke coming around me. It was the typical devil demon type of appearance. And the moral of the story was that she was telling me, look, you're not good or bad. You are whichever one you need to be at the time. Those who have bad intentions are going to perceive you as a devil. Mm-hmm. And those who have good intentions are going to perceive you as an angelic being. They're going to see you the way that they see the world. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with you. So we have that dualistic nature to us.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So at some points some people think we're the devil.
Yeah, I know.
Some people think that we're something else. We've never done anything to anybody. No. It's just that's the way they perceive the world.
Exactly. And it's a skewed perception that causes them to look upon other people fearfully or see people like us and feel threatened by them.
Well, here's another example. Working with the ayahuasca so heavily, there's been a great transformation in both of us, physically, mentally, spiritually, health-wise. Health has just gotten so much better. But there are still some people out there who see ayahuasca as a drug or as a narcotic. And they're the same people that sit there and pop pills all day long.
Right.
But they'll call me a drug addict for taking ayahuasca and working with the plants like this. Is it the ayahuasca that's bad? No. It's that person's perception of it. So I think that goes to show, what it was trying to show me was you're neither a devil or an angel. You are just you.
Yep.
And it's however the world perceives you to be. But don't be afraid to pick up your light sword and chop some heads off if you need to.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can use your wings to protect. You can protect others and you can protect yourself with your wings.
And the spiritual warfare really is what it's all about. When you get down past all of the, trying to think of the surface layer of BS in life, then you get to the real deal, which is spirituality. And you're either on one side or the other, and you are somewhere in that spiritual frequency range. You're somewhere. Even if you don't believe in all of this, even if you don't believe in spirituality, it exists, and you're on some kind of frequency. And when you're radiating that frequency out to the world, what you're getting in return is a direct result of that frequency that you're putting out. And a lot of people don't realize that and say, oh, why is my life so crappy? Because you're putting out crappy. And so you're getting back crappy. And once you start putting out happy, you get happy. It's like breathing in and breathing out.
That's what I notice. If I'm in a bad mood and I walk into a store or something, it's almost as if I'm invisible. But if I'm in a good mood, everybody's in a good mood around me.
Yep.
Now, they're either picking up on my frequency or I'm altering my reality based on the way that I feel or based on the way that I'm perceiving the world. Either way, it goes to show that the frequency that you resonate on is the frequency that's going to be around you. And and so we have been just attracting all these really good people. We're surrounded by good people. It's fantastic. So that's the importance of it. I was revealed something though that is a little bit different and kind of contrary to anything that I've seen before. And I still don't know what to make of it, but I'll just go over it kind of briefly. So first of all, I was seeing this reality in this matrix from above. So it was like seeing from the projection room of the movie theater. And I was seeing the light being projected, and I was the light being projected onto the reality. And so onto the movie screen, which is reality. So I was able to see from above, as Frank would say, outside of the chessboard and on top of the chessboard. And it's nothing but light. It's nothing but energy. And maybe that energy has a different form, but we have to be at a certain level in order to understand that form. For instance, when I first saw Isis, she appeared to me as a beam of light. And it wasn't until my DNA was upgraded, my frequency was upgraded, that I was actually able to see her ninth dimensional body in later experiences after I had done the inner work to get there. So maybe this realm that I was seeing is even higher than the ninth dimension, and it's something that's even beyond, but I just don't have the capacity yet, because I haven't done the training yet, to see it. But it was nothing but light, and these beams of light and consciousness. And it was telling me that none of us are actually real. And that we're all the figments of the imagination of the God mind or the source. And there's many different sources, and that's why there's so many different kinds of people, is that we're obviously from Isis's consciousness. There's Osiris's consciousness, there's Set's consciousness, there's Yahweh's consciousness. There's all these different consciousness that have unfolded like the Big Bang, it's constantly expanding. But when the consciousness unfolds, it's like fractals of divisions and separations and separations. And we hear this in Gnosticism as well, where they believe that we're all part of the source and that we're just fractals and fragments of the source. This is what I was actually shown, and I was shown the way that it actually works. And there is something to be said about being able to actually see it versus being explained how it works, because explaining it, you can only try to visualize it in your mind, but actually seeing it is completely different. And so we obviously are one fractal that's put back together, and when we're put back together in the next life, we will join the other part. And I don't think that that happens on this physical realm. I think it happens on an existence in another realm. And so there's hundreds or thousands or however many lifetimes on this realm, and it's just like days in school. So you have, 300 days in school that you go to school, and so every single one of those days is a different lifetime, and then you graduate that class and move on to another dimension, and then you go through all your lives there in that dimension, and back all the way until this source, which has folded out, starts to fold itself back in, and it's purified when it folds back on itself. So we're removing all our karma, we're removing all our karmic baggage, it's a purification cycle. It really is. But a lot of people look at us and go, wow, look, there's a twin flame couple. And on the surface, sure, it looks great. It looks like it's the, best relationship. And it is now in 2015 going into 2016. But when we both met, and we were just talking about this last night and how I think it's important to talk about this, because there's a lot of people out there who are meeting their twin flames and they think it's going to be all wonderful and hunky-dory and a fairy tale relationship. Yep. But actually, it's the opposite, because there is a lot of work that needs to be done when the twin flames first get together. Because what's happening is that you both have your egos, and your egos have been a certain way for so long. Yeah, it's worked for you. You take these certain traits into other relationships, and they work. And everybody is deceptive. Everybody wears a mask. When you go out in public, you're not quite the same person you are when you're at home by yourself. When you're scratching your butt in your boxers, that's who you really are right there. When there's nobody around is who you really are. Yep. Exactly. So we all do this, and it's human nature, and it's fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. But you start to bring in these little masks into the relationship. And most people can't see through your masks. Right. But your twin flame can see through your masks. And you can see through your twin flame's masks. And that creates a lot of strife and a lot of struggle, because you're being called out on all your BS. And you're calling them out on all their BS. And there's a constant back and forth until both of the egos are surrendered. And you just say, okay, look, I'm not going to put up this front anymore. I'm not going to put up this ego anymore. I'm not going to put up this perception anymore. I'm just going to be who I am, and I'm going to love you for who you are. And once you do that, then you can mesh together. And then that's when the relationship really becomes a twin flame, when the twin flame actually ignites. But when they first meet each other, it's two fires coming together and going, wait a minute.
Yep, exactly. You see everything that you secretly hate about yourself in the mirror image of the other person. Like, you see the other person and you're like, I don't like how you do this or that. And it turns out that's actually your problem, but you don't want to face it, and you keep seeing it over and over again in the person that is the reflection of you. And so it's this back and forth until the egos drop. And then once the egos drop and you see what this really is and how important it is, then the ego stuff doesn't matter. The masks are off, and there's no more excuses. I mean, really, there's no more excuses for your own behavior. And so at that point, it takes both of the twin flames actually doing this in order for this to work. In order for a twin flame relationship to work, you have to drop the ego. Eventually. Like, it took us years, but we finally had to do it. And it was me not demanding any change from him, and only demanding change from myself, and him doing the same, that made this work.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
The more that I would push her to change, the more resistant she would be to the change. Mm-hmm. Until finally I said, fine, if that's the way you really are, I accept you for who you are. Mm-hmm. And it was at that point where she said, no, that's not really how I am. I don't know why I've been acting like this. Yeah. And me too. You know, when she said, look, I accept you for who you are, and I'm not going to push you to be a certain way anymore, that's when I said, I'm really not this way. Why have I been acting like this? Mm-hmm. And so it took a while. Now that we're where we're at in 2016, and we are actually the twin flames ignited, mm-hmm. instead of the twin flames trying to ignite, we can talk about this kind of stuff. But at the time, it wasn't, It wasn't
proper.
No, because we really weren't sure
how things were going to play out.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you're going to run into that. If you've really met your twin flame, then you're going to run into that kind of stuff. And the sooner that you realize that you have to put the ego to the side and accept the person for who they are, mm-hmm. the sooner you're going to be able to ignite that within you. Yeah. And it all comes back full circle to dropping the ego, whether it's through ayahuasca or through your own understanding of things, and understanding who we are, where we come from, and ultimately where we live. Because when you realize that you're a stream of consciousness, for instance, when you've seen it like I've seen it, then you realize just how irrelevant this physical world really is, and how important it is to hold on to your twin flame and to your other half. And the physical stuff doesn't matter anymore. Why should any of this matter when the most important thing is to find that other fractal and hold on to that other fractal and make sure that you don't let go and you don't lose that fractal in the ether or in the vortex, and you merge back, you do what you're supposed to do, you fulfill your purpose. So it's a really big topic. Yeah, it really is. But people are waking up, mm-hmm. and people are understanding, and as a result, everything is crumbling, mm-hmm. and it's good. It's good. So many people are saying, hey, we got to fix the system. We got to save this. We got to save that. No.
Save the Republic.
You know what? Let it all crumble, because it has to crumble. And sure, we're going to have some birth pains. Sure, it's going to be a little difficult. Let the financial system collapse. That's fine. The financial system sucks. It's been a system of enslavement. Mm-hmm. If we don't get rid of the financial system, then how are we going to break ourselves free from it? Right. And people are afraid to go through that. But you know what? The human spirit can and will prevail. And that's what whoever put us here is understanding, is that no matter how much you tie the human spirit down, no matter how many boxes you place them in, no matter how many veils of illusion you put in front of them, eventually the human spirit will break out of every single construct and be what it was always meant to be, and that is free.
Yes, it will. Free and independent.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. We love you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at truthfrequencyradio.com.
Love you guys. Your protection from deception.
Your protection from deception.